How's it going, OFPs, and welcome to another episode of the Off-Field Players Podcast. I'm your host, Phillip Hall, and I hope everybody's having an awesome weekend or having an awesome week. And it's definitely been, quite a journey so far. And I should probably explain why Phillip has been away for a bit. And as everybody knows who follows me, I just recently graduated from St. John's University with my degree in sport management. And currently, I'm actually in Daytona Beach, Florida, as I am the only returning intern for the NASCAR Diversity Internship Program for the class of 2023. And I am extremely happy to be back in the program for the second year in a row. And I thought it would be a great idea to do an informational interview series for all of the interns that's in my cohort for NDIP this year, as this is the first episode of an NDIP series of the Off-Field Players Podcast, where I will be highlighting the interns that are currently interning for NASCAR, as well as the different departments that work within NASCAR, or there are certain entities that are outside NASCAR but are still involved in the sport. And I figured for the first episode that it would be awesome to have team focus episode where the three guests that you see on your screen, or that you're going to hear if you're listening to the audio version, are work for NASCAR, like three different NASCAR teams that race in the NASCAR Cup Series. And they're just going to explain like what they do for the team, like their upbringing, how they were able to be a part of the program, and just what they've learned so far being interns for a NASCAR race team. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give the floor to my guest interns for tonight, and I will let them introduce themselves, tell them, what department you're in, what team you intern for, where you go to school, where you're from, the whole shebang.
Ladies first.
All right. So my name is Ava Hartsell. I'm from Chicago, but I'm going to be a junior student this fall at Virginia Tech. I'm at Hendrick Motorsports, and I am a creative services intern in the marketing department. So I really help with a lot of different marketing tasks day to day, as well as some of the race day type content. See.
All right, and my name is Victor Jackson. I'm currently working for RFK Racing. I am their social media intern right now. And I graduated from a college called Florida State College at Jacksonville. My major was digital media with a concentration in visual design for web and mobile applications. And I'm originally from Jacksonville, Florida, but I just recently moved up to North Carolina after news of being selected for this internship. So now I'm stationed here, and it's been great so far. So, introduction.
Hello, everyone that's listening. My name is Sidney Brown. I just graduated from Bethune-Cookman University. I'm not too far where Phil is at right now in Daytona Beach, Florida, HBCU Nation. I currently am interning for the best team in motorsports, the best team ever created, Team Penske, as you can see on my shirt for those that are watching. You saw me thumbs down the other two teams because we believe that we are the best. Because we just are. We don't, just look at our resume. But, I'm currently a marketing intern with them, and I'm also helping out on the communications team because I graduated with a degree in mass communications. So I'm helping a little bit with their social media metrics as well as I'm updating their website since I've updated the website creation before. So that's my role at Penske.
All right. Well, you've heard it already from the interns that are on tonight's panel. And first off, I just want to say to you, Ava, Victor, and Sidney, congratulations to being in the program. Just to begin with, just begin yourself a pat on the back, a round of applause for all that you've accomplished to be in the position that you're currently in. And it's also the first step of becoming an OFP, an off-field player. And that's something that we love to see and we love to highlight here on the Off Field Players podcast. And I forgot to mention that this is actually a very special year to be an intern in NASCAR, as NASCAR is currently celebrating their 75th anniversary since the sports foundation in 1948, right in the very town that I am currently in, where Sidney went to college in, Daytona Beach, Florida. I know like by the time this episode gets uploaded, we've already passed 4th of July, and now I was fortunate to spend the day over on the beach and just hanging out, just enjoying the sunny, hot and humid Florida weather that I'm still getting used to, even though I am from California, so I'm used to the beach and the heat. But down here in Florida is a whole different thing. So, still getting used to that. But overall, it's definitely great that we have them on the panel, and they've mentioned the NASCAR teams that they represent or that they are representing for the summer. And yeah, I mean, all that they do for the team really contributes to the branding aspect of not only what the team is able to do on the track, but mostly off the track. We've heard, interns say that they're in marketing, that they're in graphic design, and all of that is very important for, how these teams are able to promote themselves, not just through the platform that NASCAR gives to them, but as a global brand of a race team. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see what they have in store. And I would expect them to, banter a little bit, because not only do they compete on the track, but I'm sure they also compete off the track with, who they represent. So I expect to hear a lot of that tonight, but we're just going to get right into it. So I just want to go around the table here of hearing hearing everybody's story of how they were able to get into sports. So just go back in the memory bank and let the OFPs hear about your first ever introduction to sports, whether it was a sport you played, a sport you watched, a sport that your parents introduced you to, or that you played with your siblings growing up. Like, what was your first ever introduction to sports?
I can start off. So basically my entire life, I was an athlete. So I played a lot of different sports. I played travel, I played for school. And so that was really just, I guess, my introduction, just because I grew up playing. And yeah, so just playing various sports.
Yeah, same. I started playing football, so that started early, with the flag and then Pop Warner, and just doing that through middle school, elementary, and then on into high school as well. But also played a variety of different sports when I was younger, just getting exposed to sports, probably football, basketball, soccer, and then just sprinting, like running track. So it's kind of what got me started in the sports industry, just the thought of even wanting to work in the sports industry and developing a passion for athleticism and competition.
Yeah, very similar for me as well. I grew up playing football from kind of little league, and did the same thing with basketball. But football has always been my main passion. In my household, I'm a diehard Steeler fan, just like my father is. So I just always grew up watching them on TV, watching them, win Super Bowls, watching them lose a Super Bowl. They haven't been back to the Super Bowl since that year, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But I carried my football, played multiple different positions. With football, played basketball 1 year in high school, ran track for about 3 years. Just a whole bunch of different sports. I played soccer in Little League. I was kind of forced to do that. My mom forced me that. I hated that. I liked the game of soccer, but I couldn't. I couldn't coordinate myself to play soccer. I got tired too easy. I didn't like it. As I said, I couldn't, kick worth a crap. Even though you got a goal this wide, I just couldn't comprehend. My foot just couldn't comprehend kicking the ball in that wide thing. I don't know. It just didn't register with me. But kind of like Vic, playing a whole bunch of different sports and watching it all through high school. And eventually, saying, hey, I definitely wanted to be in sports journalism. So that's why I became a mass communications major. And I just started out working for my school newspaper in college. And then it went from there, got in some programs, particularly my senior year. And here I am now with NASCAR.
And well, just hearing the different experiences that everyone has had with growing up in sports, I mean, it's like just the introduction, and even just the unique aspect about being in this program is that everybody has a different background, and maybe there's people that aren't athletes, but they like to watch sports or like to write about them. They like to read about them. They like to do statistics about them. And I know for me, and those that know, like my sport growing up was baseball, and of course everybody knew how passionate I am about NASCAR, really just and motorsports in general. Like I always like to say when it comes to cars and when it comes to motorsports that I will watch anything with four wheels and a motor. So just growing up with that being like my background, pretty much my childhood of following like my NASCAR heroes like Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, Dale Earnhardt Jr., like the big names, and living out the dream of working in NASCAR, just knowing that I've grown up like in Oakland, California, where NASCAR is hardly ever talked about, but still being able to be a part of the sport, and even just using, just what I've been able to learn from playing baseball, just knowing that I had the mindset of an athlete, but at the same time, when I was going to college, and I still wanted to have the understanding of the business side of sports. All the reason why I wanted to go into sport management at St. John's. And even though I had these dreams about playing Division I baseball, I was a failed walk-on. But that didn't deter me to still want to live, or I guess I could say transition into becoming an off-field player. And just being able to be involved with, things such as sport broadcasting, where I would broadcast St. John's basketball, soccer, baseball, like during their seasons, or even, doing something like this with the podcast is, knowing that the project, even though it was premature, it was still something that I wanted to do as a passion project, and to be able to do something like this on a platform, especially for a sport like NASCAR, it's definitely going to be, quite the journey just starting out, knowing that this is the first group that I'm interviewing. I want to go a little bit further on with everybody's experiences. So we've heard about the sports that we were introduced to at a young age. So, when it came to knowing about the opportunities about trying to work in sports, what experiences did you have in either high school or college that led you to want to work in sports?
I think that's a good question. I think for me, I think my entire identity growing up was being an athlete, and I kind of only looked at sports a lot of times as, how can I get recruited and get to the next level? And that's kind of the only opportunity I saw. Like, I obviously knew there's a lot of different jobs in sports beyond just being the one that competes on the field or the court. But I think once I was kind of put in the situation where I had to really think about the future, it wasn't until then where I was like, you know what, I'm probably, I don't have the best chance of being the one at the next level to compete. And I kind of knew like that reality. So once I was in that mindset and looking for other opportunities and knowing that I wanted to work in sports, I think that was where I kind of understood, there's a lot of different opportunities out there. And, just because, social media now, it makes it very easy to find opportunities in whatever industry you want to work in, especially sports, because social media is, and media in general is to the professional sports, collegiate, everything. It was a lot easier for me to find different opportunities and kind of find a passion in place in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. For me, in high school, I I kind of had my hands in a lot of different areas, whether that be sports or academically or just different hobbies. And I always played sports in high school, and I always found that when I did play these sports and I wasn't or in these competitions, I don't know, I just felt like that's the type of environment that kind of fueled me, like being around more competitive people and environments where everyone's trying to do their best, and and one up each other, but in a positive way. You end up lifting each other up, and I really valued that when I was younger. And so I decided after high school, I actually went in a completely different path. I didn't even do sports right out of high school. I was actually doing biology because that was like one of my other passions academically. And I just kind of fell out of love with it, but I always had sports to fall back on. I always felt comfortable there. And that's kind of how I ended up here. It just was organic, just being around people, like I said, that are just trying to better themselves, whether it's athletically, competition wise, whatever. I knew that was the environment I needed to be in professionally, because that was going to help me, in my opinion, grow the most.
For me, it definitely was definitely a lot of blessings that came my way. So I think definitely got to thank God for that. But it mainly, of course, started with high school, just having my passion for being an athlete, like I was playing football. I always loved it. It was the other sports I mentioned earlier. And then, so I get to college and, I said, starting writing in sports and everything, and just, did that. Then COVID came. So I was actually home all my sophomore year because, the world was going crazy at that point. And then junior year, I get to come back to Daytona Beach. Because Florida was really, really bad. So it was kind of dangerous for me to go back down there, being from Carolina. So coming back down there junior year, since the world was still opening back up, I couldn't get out as much, because everybody was still kind of hesitant to go out and everything. But I still continued writing for my school newspaper. I started looking into some other connections, and I found one in radio. That's actually from my area, but they worked in Daytona Beach as well. Kind of good connection. So I was able to start my own radio show as a internship at WLE Radio, which is in Ormond Beach, actually. A Bethune-Cookman owned station. So I called it the Brown Report. That's my radio show. I still do it from time to time. Then also in August last year, so before my senior year, I was fortunate to be accepted into the inaugural USA Basketball Torch Leadership and Sport Mentoring Program with Team USA. And being in that program, that definitely was like the domino that just knocked the rest of them over. Because, I had been applying for things, freshman, sophomore, junior year, wasn't able to get so big internships per se. And then when I got this fellowship to last me the whole entire year, it introduced me to a lot of industry leaders from ESPN, from Nike, from a bunch of teams. I was able to go out they flew me out to Minnesota this past February to, cover the women's national team mini camp. I was able to meet athletes like Diana Taurasi. That was the first athlete I met. They surprised me with her. Elena Del Don, a lot, Simone Augustus, Becky Hammond, who was very good in the NBA for a while. So I met a whole lot of influential people as well with that, and it helped me get me in the field even more. Then I recently just completed a little sales academy, the first one for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm in one currently with the New York Mets, and then with the Detroit Pistons starting next week. So I've been able to get into 3 programs with 3 professional teams to get me more in the mindset with sales and as well. So, that's a few of the things I was able to intern, do a fellowship with the Vegas Golden Knights, the NHL, for about 10 weeks from February as well. So I was able to go out to Vegas.
Stanley Cup champs.
Yeah, Stanley Cup. I mean, I feel like I had a part in that, so I'm still waiting for them to send me my ring. I'm still waiting on it. They haven't got back to me yet, but I feel like I should. I feel like I should at least, get a part, get at least a ring, But it's all good. It's all good. But that's kind of the big. That's kind of like the big thing that really got me was this past year. And then I was actually, when I was out in Vegas, that's when I did the internship interview for that final interview with Team Penske. They actually called me while I was still out there, and it went well, even though I had to do it at 6:45 in the morning because I was 3 hours behind, and I scheduled the interview thinking, oh, I'm doing it at 9:45. Realizing, I'm on the West. I'll be on the West Coast. I'm not going to be on the East Coast. So I had to put on a suit at 6 o'clock in the morning and struggle through the interview. But clearly, I got through it. But yeah, that's kind of the big things that got me. So I know that's a lot, but that's my journey.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody's going to have a different story for where they got their start in, and I know, and City, me and you kind of have a relatable story where, during the pandemic, I was stuck at home my entire sophomore year, like not knowing, what the heck was going to happen, and I was end up just working a night job at UPS, but the whole time I was still at home, I still wanted to find a way to, because I was doing radio too for WSJU radio back at St. John's. Shout out to them. They gave me my inspiration, my passion for broadcasting or podcasting and broadcasting. Big props to them. But I knew with what I was doing, since I was like all the way across the country. Everybody knows, like, being from California, 3 hour time difference between California and New York, and I was still trying to find ways to do my podcast virtually to where I could just record the episode and ship it out to the students that were back on campus and that had the access to the station at the time, just so they could play it. Just trying to do everything I can to stay active with it, stay consistent, and it worked out. But at the same time, I still wanted to make sure that I kept the mindset of believing that something bigger was coming. I know then people have heard the story before. Like I've done an episode to where I talk about the 3 different internships that I had before I came back to NASCAR this summer, and you could go watch that episode when when you have the time. But I talk about how I like when I had the offer to intern with the Oakland A's, like that came my freshman, like that was going to happen after my freshman year, but that's when COVID happened. Like COVID happened, freshman year, like right in the middle of its second semester. And, that's when the whole world shut down. And then I didn't know what to do. And all I could do was go back home and find a steady job just to, keep some money in my pocket. But what I realized is that while I was working at UPS and still making sure I had those connections with my professors, that opened the door to me getting the 2311 racing internship, like after my sophomore year. And just knowing what it took to be able to maintain that consistency and to maintain that positive mindset, that's really the number one key, or at least one of the keys to that you need to have when being an OFP. You need to be able to see like the longer vision, but also most importantly, you need to be able to make sure that you have people in your corner that support you. And this is a segue into my next question for everybody. As far as just knowing that everybody's grown up playing some form of sport, or, like being in college, I'm sure you guys had career advisors or like, a counselor or a mentor or a professor that you can go to talk about, how to handle college life, how to get your start, like in the sports industry, like doing whatever you can to be able to achieve the career goals that you have in front of you. So a question that I want to pose to everybody is, what was something that you did that helped you get the right mentorship to be introduced to the sports industry, whether that was from a professor, a career advisor, a counselor, or a coach?
I feel like I'm still at the start of finding that mentorship. I think I've found a lot, and it also goes back to COVID. When we didn't really have much to do, and I was like, what's next in my life? I have to get ready for this next stage of my life. And shout out to Kevin Edwards. I saw him on TikTok, and he was working for the Miami Dolphins at the time. He went to Stanford, and he was a content or video producer for the Dolphins. So I was able to find him and kind of use him as my, I guess, first mentor. I was able to reach out to him, and he was able to introduce me, give me some of his connections that he had, and also offer a lot of advice and experience that he had as someone who was, miles ahead of where I was before I even started. And so he was definitely one of my biggest mentors starting out, and really, I guess, introduced me to the industry. And I just continue to find passion in the people that I met. And I think that relationships are one of the most important parts in this industry. And it's the biggest thing, and mentorship is the biggest thing that has helped me continue to grow and continue to get different opportunities. So Kevin Edwards is one of the first people to find to him. But just the people from last year with my internship with the Chicago Sky and the WNBA. Shout out to Amber Del Rio. She was a big mentor for me and the entire marketing content team there. So just any relationship I feel like I've created since starting to work in sports, even though I feel like I'm still at the beginning, I've really used to gain inspiration from and gain a lot of life experience and knowledge that I don't have yet.
Me, it was kind of a different story because, like I said, I did transition out of a predominantly like science-based major to a more creative profession in sports. So I didn't necessarily have like a sports mentor coming out of high school and going into college. I did have mentors in my program that were, for digital media, and they were amazing. But I feel like what really helped me to even think about landing or applying to the NASCAR program was peer mentorship. I had friends that did my program before I had done it. So talking to them and, hearing their experiences and seeing kind of what they have achieved after the program really helped me to kind of jumpstart myself and be like, okay, I can do this, this, and this, from here. More specifically, I had a buddy, I still have a buddy. His name is Jordan Walter. One of the most amazing people I ever met, our class speaker for our senior class graduating in high school, and then went on to work for companies like Umbro and a company named called Black Star Soccer, which aims to highlight just inclusion in soccer and being played in communities that are more predominantly minorities. And he does a lot of creative directing for them. So once I saw him doing that, and I was also closely tied to a league that he created called Sunday Football Club, where, we would go out every week, play soccer. He would end up designing our jerseys and stuff like that, just for fun. And I was like, and then he was getting exposure from that. And I was like, man, like, I feel like I'm combining not only sports, but then also just a creative profession. And there is room for us to kind of grow out there from that. So he really helped me to start checking the right boxes and just making sure I'm looking in the right places and expanding my search. Because without him, it would have been a lot harder. So I definitely think peer mentorship is important if you don't have someone that is a lot older, being able to guide you in the right direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely a good point, but kind of piggybacking off of Vic and everything. And I guess like saying it more so to Ava, because I know you say you're kind of, getting more started into it as well. Since we kind of have a little bit more, I have a little bit more experience as well. I'm willing to like mentor you as well. Just of course, as a friend, as a fellow intern, because that's a big part of what this is about anyway. So just kind of listening to that, I'm willing to be like another peer, like type of mentor to you as well. Just kind of just to start off, but it's just kind of for me.
I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no problem. Anytime, got my number, got the group me. So, I'm willing to help you, as I know you work hard. So, I'm willing to help people that work hard, and that's kind of the same thing that happened with me. When you with the mentors I have, I got a lot of them in college. As far as with my sporting mentors, obviously me and my dad have been close. I've always taken my dad's leadership, but as far as my dad's an accountant, he's not in sports. So as far as my mentor is definitely a Mr. Harold Ford, who was the operations manager at WLE Radio in Ormond Beach. Him being from my area here in, outside of Asheville, North Carolina, being from, played rival. He went to one of my rival high schools, and, he's down in Daytona Beach. It was a really just kind of a unexpected connection, to meet somebody else from Asheville, the Asheville area, to be in Daytona, and not only that, work for my university. And so he went through the same type of issues I did, as far as us having a certain type of accident, because, kind of lingo and everything else, because when you're in radio, of course, when you're starting out in radio, as you know, Phil, it's kind of hard at first, having to have a certain type of technique and having to, certain letters, everybody has like certain letters and certain phrases that they struggle with as far as WELE. You see, everybody wants to say W, just my southern accent, saying W. So I had to, he had to really work with me. Sometimes I would do a good thing, but just the intro alone. This is the Brown Report with Sidney Brown on WELE. Like it's like that used to rake me, but I can say W. See, I'm even more paranoid when I say it now because it was just instilled in me that, instead of saying South, I'm going to say South Carolina. No, he's saying it's not South Carolina, it's South. And I mean just like, but it helped me to speak better, and it was just that kind of hands-on mentoring from him, knowing that that he had these same issues because we're from the same place. So we got the same lingo and everything. So he's a big part of it. Mr. Glenn Walker, who's also in radio, him, Mr. Ford, both of them very close friends. They both they helped mold my radio show. They helped mold me as a person. They definitely stood up for me a lot. Because sometimes at my particular school, we have a particular department chair. I'm not going to say his name, but that was very dismissive somewhat to Black students. Even though it's HBCU, this guy wasn't particularly Black or whatever. So a lot of times, kind of trying to drive out radio for whatever reason. It was just weird stuff. So, having these mentors that not only helped you get into the industry more, but then they stood up for you as well because they went through a lot of challenges as well. And then, of course, getting into this program, USA Basketball, this mentorship program, I have them for life. Ms. Jennifer Lynn Williams of USA Basketball. She's the Chief Development Officer of USA Basketball, but she was the athletic director for Alabama State, did work at North Carolina A&T and everything else. I think she was at DePaul for a while before too. She's actually from Detroit. And so just kind of like, seeing a bunch of Black leaders in sport that, that they grinded their way to get to where they are. And so with them, when they started to see me, they say, because, they want to take people that they know that they want to work hard. And that's a part of mentorship and everything else because, they're trying to help me get to better than what they are or better than what they were. And, they're pretty great. And so, and then of course, just back to kind of the peer mentorship. Yes, a lot of, I would say, just even looking at you, Phil, because, as I said, I kind of looked you up before this program even entered because I kind of saw you because since you were in the program last year, you would know my friend Precious Johnson that went to Florida A&M that was in the program with me last year. She was definitely, I give her a lot of credit because we're in a scholarship foundation together and everything. She's from Daytona. And so she's the one that told me about applying for it. And she was definitely helping me through it and kind of what her process was like. So definitely shout out to her because she told me, she knew Julius, and everything else. So she was like saying, you ain't got to worry so much, just be yourself. And, and she definitely was a big help with me getting into the program. So from your cohort last year. So, those are definitely a few people that come to mind right now. I have a whole lot of others, but that's kind of, those are the main people that really helped me as far as get into sports. And of course, Precious was the main person that helped me get into this.
Yeah, just hearing about the different mentor stories and just to kind of touch a little bit on mine too. The first one of my mentors, I feel like, I got a long list of them too, Sidney. But, the first mentor that I felt like I really had or that was really able to help me get that push into the sports industry was Taj Deshambe. And, at the time when I first met him, I was actually going to my junior year of high school. And the way that the story goes is that I was doing a summer job training thing that my mom's job was orchestrating. And there's a lady that came from City Hall, Oakland City Hall, that came to spoke to us one day. And she asked the question of where do you see yourself in 10 years, or do you know what you would want to do for a career, the basic kind of question that you would get when you're a 16-year-old still trying to figure out life. So but the way that my mom reminds me of that story, she tells me that, I was the only one that spoke up at the time. And, I, of course, raised my hand and was like, oh, yeah, I'm I see myself working in sports and, I really like sports and I like to understand more about the business side of how everything is operated. And that's where, she made the connection to get me close with Taj. And, then I found out about Taj. I found out that, he was from Oakland like me, he's from the community. And, what his involvement was with the A's was, he was at the time, he was the VP of government and government affairs for the team. And like from what he did, he was more of like the community guy. Like he went out and spoke in the community, trying to go at the time the A's were working on trying to build a new stadium in Oakland. And, if people have read about what the A's are going through now, that's a show for another time. But but really what I took from him and why I guess what he saw in me was someone that was willing to work hard, somebody that was willing to learn, someone that was, passionate about, just about sports in general, and just trying to do everything they can for the resources that they had at the time to just be able to get that extra oomph to, go after it. And, and he's done a lot for me. I mean, he was the one that helped me get the A's internship in the first place. I mean, I feel like I don't think I would even have interned with the A's if it wasn't for him. And, just knowing what a mentor can do for you, or at least having like mentorship type of relationship with someone that's, sees potential in you and that's willing to help you in any kind of way, help you open that door that you probably can't open yourself. I think that's huge in a lot of regards. And the one thing I like to mention for the OFPs is that, for anybody that's interested in coming to be a part of the NASCAR Diversity Internship Program, what NASCAR does and why I think is really cool that they do is that when you're interning during the summer, you get assigned a mentor, someone that's been working at NASCAR full time for a bit, maybe like in a high position, like either the manager, VP, coordinator, any kind of position, just as long as they have some longevity in the company. They'll be assigned, or as an intern, you'll be assigned a mentor with them, and there'll be somebody that you could just go to. Like you could ask them for career advice. You could ask them on, like what do they do in their position for NASCAR, like, or how can they help you get in contact with maybe a previous sports organization that they were with in the past, or maybe not even a sports organization specifically, but maybe just like the last company that they worked for, if they worked at the last company. And I think that's the one thing that I really find, valuable. And I feel like mentorship does in a way, do justice to what seems impossible, but can become possible when you have the right person in your corner. And, like not just like, me speaking about Taj, but I've also had, like my pastor at my church, Pastor Van Hook, shout out to him. I've also had, coaches, like Eric Clayton, was like coaching baseball coach back in high school. Mm-hmm. Or even, some of my professors back at St. John's, Timothy McGee, he actually reposted the vlog I did for the orientation on his LinkedIn. So, like big props to Professor McGee for doing that to me, or doing that for me. And and even also, like speaking of which, I would use LinkedIn as a resource. If you're trying to look for mentorship, like maybe you're probably, don't have to look at finding it at your college or at your school or, within your community, I would just go to LinkedIn. I mean, the one thing that my sport management professor stressed a lot in our classes was the power of LinkedIn, the power of networking. And, like just from what they were, what they were telling us, and, maybe not everybody took it to heart, but, I was inspired by it, like, because I saw a vision and trying to build that networking, scope on my LinkedIn account by just sending messages to people that were working at organizations that I wanted to work for, that I saw myself working in. And, and it grows from there. I mean, like, even though it may not be an in-person type deal, it still is something that can help you get good practice in. And then eventually, maybe someday you'll come across that person you connect on LinkedIn in person, and, the rest can be history. But since we did touch a lot on the mentorship aspect of it, I would just kind of want to go into just the mindset and the mentality that you have to like understand the aspect of just hearing somebody tell you no a lot. Because I know the one thing about working in the sports industry, and I'm sure we've all learned this at some point, is that when you're applying for these, internship programs or trying to go after, like a full-time gig in the sports industry, it's not always a guarantee that you're going to land where you want to. Everybody may have the big dream of like, oh, I want to go work with the Yankees. I want to go work with the Warriors, or I want to go, work with the Dallas Cowboys. But in reality, when you're a young pup coming up, you're starting out, you may not always get the chance to land where you want to go, right? Where you want to go on the first try. So a question that I want to ask everybody is, what would you say is the most challenging thing for someone who wants to work in the sports industry at the moment?
I think that the most challenging thing is starting, because at least when I started, I had no idea where to start. I was like, I can play a lot of sports, I know a lot about sports, but that's not, at the end of the day, that's not what gets you the job. And that's not why, you get up every day to work in sports. Yeah, it's awesome to love what you do and have a passion for, whatever sport you work in, but starting is definitely the hardest part. But once you take that leap and start, it makes things a lot easier. And as you gain a lot of experience, it's you learn a lot from that, and within the connections that you make as well, it really helps. But I think the most challenging part is definitely starting, and I think the best way to start is to just do it, and reach out to someone, anyone, whether it's like a cold email or someone that you know or someone that knows somebody else. I think there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of possibilities out there. And the worst thing someone can say is no. No, if you ask to connect with them, if you ask them questions, if you ask them, hey, do you know anything about this, or do you know this person? The worst thing that they can say is no. So I think just that's definitely the biggest challenge, but you just have to have a little bit of confidence in yourself, and just put your best foot forward and ask a lot of questions and do a lot of your own research, but make a lot of connections, build a lot of meaningful relationships, not just connections. And I think that will get someone very far. But it's definitely very challenging at the start. And I know that I am struggling with it and starting out. Sometimes I don't really know, what my next step is, or who to talk to, who to reach out to. And a lot of times I'm kind of fear. I'm like, oh, what if they don't like me, or what if they say no to me, but, after all those no's, there is going to be a yes. And for all of us, that yes was being in this program and being accepted into this program. I think it's safe to say that we've all had a pretty great experience, so far. So this was kind of our yes at this point in our lives, but it's definitely a challenge when you don't have a lot of knowledge, or you feel like you're kind of walking in blind.
For sure. And I think one of the things that my mom kind of instilled in me from an early age was pretty much the concept of like, what's for you is for you. What opportunities are out there, that are for you are gonna come to you. But not only that, they're not just gonna come to you. I think the most important thing when you talk about getting into this industry and like what is the hardest thing is just honestly knowing what opportunities are out there. There are so many opportunities. And if you don't look, if you don't seek these opportunities, then like, yeah, it's going to look like there's no jobs, you know what I mean? But like, if you can't just stop at like the name, the most well-known names in the sports industry, at least in my opinion. I applied to a ton of different places while I applied to NASCAR as well. Places I would have like pictured as my dream job, you know what I mean? Like sports organizations that I just knew a ton about and I would love to work there. But I also applied to other places that I didn't know as much about, because why not? You have to put yourself out there in order to receive opportunities. So when I was applying for internships and just positions, I used not only my buddy that I mentioned earlier, Jordan. He told me a lot of things, but one of the things he told me, it was a website called teamworkonline.com. A lot of sports jobs on there. I mean, you can search by country, or not country, I'm sorry, county or zip code or
no
state.
free ads, by the way. So just putting it out.
Okay, true. My bad. It wasn't really an ad, but I feel you.
Well,
I
you
feel
can
you.
plug it still.
But
I'm just saying,
Oh yeah. But just searching for like different opportunities is probably the hardest thing. Because they're not just going to drop in your lap. You're going to have to look out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to look at different outlets that you might not have normally considered. Even with NASCAR, like I looked at so many websites for internships, applied to as many as possible. NASCAR was honestly one of the last places that I applied to because I just wasn't in the right mindset to check the NASCAR website. You know what I mean? Like I saw it on a different website, just on the kind of like the back end of my search. And I think it was pretty early when I saw it. And I was like, man, they had a deadline there. And I was like, I should apply here, and I ended up here, so it's just, it could be your first, it could be your last, it could be in the middle. You don't know until you put yourself out there. So definitely give yourself the opportunity to reap opportunities by expanding your search area, because that definitely is the hardest thing. If all the surface level jobs are out there, so many people are going to apply to those, it's a numbers game at the end of the day too. So you want to give yourself the best chance to like succeed.
What I'd have to say is, and they're just kind of just listening to the two of them. Of course, the getting started part. I was told today by a lady that I had a conversation with earlier today, for actually an interview for another full-time job would be, she said, well, based on your resume, just kind of looking at you, you didn't let grass grow under your feet. And I didn't know what that meant at first. And she basically meant, well, you went out there and get it. You didn't just sit around and just wait, which is a big part of it too. A lot of people, she says that she gets a lot of people, just in general, because this is someone that has worked with a whole bunch of sports organizations that I talked to earlier today. She told me that a lot of people, especially through college, now, Ava, you said, are you a sophomore or a junior coming up? I forget.
I'll be a junior.
You'll be a junior. So by the time really you see a lot of people that when you get to your senior year, that you're going to have a lot of people that you probably know from your when you came in as a freshman, that they didn't put in the outside work. And then by the time they get to senior year, or they trying to wait till it's too late, then when they try to get out in this industry, and when you don't have that experience because you didn't go out and find it or go out and get it, a lot of people are not going to consider them. I mean, that's the reality of it. See, a lot of people, as they say, as Phil talks about, and Vic talked about, a lot of people, yes, you have all these dreams and everything else, but if you don't do programs like this, or you don't try to go out there for, because as you said before, there's a whole bunch of them out there. And of course, yes, they are competitive. They are competitive, and that means, hey, you have to try to go out there and get experience. And a lot of it just comes from getting experience from your school. It doesn't always have to just start out just externally. That is a huge help. But a lot of people don't even want to help out at their school. Any school that I know of wants more help from their students in the athletic department. And it's not just, that's for any school you go to, that they encourage students to try to, as I said, making podcasts, being on athletic teams, doing photography, videography, and everything else. They give a whole bunch of different avenues for you to go. And you have professors. Most professors are resources. They know people. They've been out in the field. And a lot of people don't even want to consult their professors until it's way too late. And they're more willing to help somebody that if you came in freshman year and less than, sophomore year, they get past because, freshman year is still trying to find your way. But then when you start really getting into your sophomore years and your junior years, when you start really building up that experience, and then years pass and you're like, okay, I have experience in photography and sports photography like you, Ava, or like, just being in certain different aspects of it. That's a huge part of it. I mean, it's all about getting experience, about having connections as well. And so, the word I have to say to anybody is I say, you have to go out there and get it. I said, this is like any field, you got to grind it. You got to grind it out. And that's how you make yourself stand out. Because I think a lot of people realize that, sports is a very rewarding field to work in. But as I said, as we know, because all four of us have not got our foot in the door, that is a small industry, even though it's big, it's small at the same time. Because, I mean, and it comes from what set us apart by going out there and doing the work and then knowing the right people as well. And then, as Vic said too, it's a numbers game. So, as I said before, a lot of people, with NASCAR, I was the same way. NASCAR, I knew about the internship program, as I said, from my friend Precious and everything else, but it wasn't my first choice either. I know I was, and, as far as like saying no and all the no's and everything else, you have to know how to take rejection with a grain of salt, because, I mean, that's just going to happen in life. That's just going to happen. And so when you start getting over it, and as you said before, when you keep grinding and putting in that work, it doesn't start out right away either. As I said, when you start building yourself up as a brand, I mean, your name is your brand. So when you start building your name up and you're getting it out there and you're reaching out to more people, that is hard. As you said, starting, that is hard. And, starting and continuing it, I would add to that, starting it is it's hard in itself, but make sure to continue that is definitely the hard process as well, because a lot of people, they can start and say all day long, and then one setback, then they're gone, or they want to try something and they want to give up. And one thing about sports, whether you're an athlete or not, is about perseverance. This is a tough field to be in. It's a rewarding field, but then we realize now, being in this space, being with NASCAR, there's only 37 of us in this program out of large hundreds of almost over 1,000, 2,000 applications. That's for the majority.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, like, about 1,600 people applied for this program from what I know. So it was a large application pool to pick from.
Very large, and that's just like about 2% of. That's about 2%. So it is very competitive. It is, and but how did we get through? We all had to go out and get the experience, because if you don't have any experience, especially if you're a senior, now it's one thing, like, if you're a sophomore or something like that, of course, you have 1 year, whatever, and and you can get in as a sophomore, as I said, like you did, right, Ava, as a junior, then yeah, that's really, really impressive. But especially if you're a senior or graduating senior, like me and Phil are, and I think Vic, I think you graduated too. So I mean, being seniors like like we are, and they asking you, so you mean that, and they're gonna ask, well, in 4 years, what did you do? And you don't have much of anything to show for it, it's not going to work. It doesn't matter what GPA you had or not. That doesn't matter. Of course, yeah, they don't necessarily want you to be dumb or nothing like that, but a GPA is only going to go but so far, because there are plenty of people that are in positions that may have had high GPAs, but that doesn't mean they can do the job. Because if you can do both, great. They actually like that better. Of course, if you can be, knowing how to multitask, that's what they like. But at the end of the day, that's why I would tell anybody, I say, starting early and, being open to all facets of sports. As I said before, I may be a marketing intern, but I said my major was communication. And, then I'm also looking into sales as well. So it's just like having that broad knowledge of sports is a plus too. So at least what you will show people is, you kind of know, you've kind of been or started to find your way around the industry. And you did it because, like the lady told me today, you didn't wait for grass to grow under your feet.
Yeah, Sidney, you bring up a great point there, to talking about how, like, not waiting around. It was actually the first time I've heard that saying before, like, didn't wait for grass to grow under your feet. I assume that lady was from the South, so, they got the sayings and everything down there. I do like absolutely agree with that statement on how, when you're in college, you don't want the 4 years to be wasted. You don't want, especially if you're trying to work in the sports. I tried to start as early as possible to get my foot in the door, wherever it was. I was looking at interns, I was looking at the internships, or I was looking at what I could do in school. And I know, even though, like, things were weird at the time with the pandemic and everything, but I knew after the summer I spent with 20 through 11, I went back to St. John's, and I applied to work for the athletic event staff because they would hire students to work the sporting events on campus, whether it was at the soccer games, the volleyball games, or the basketball games. I tried to find some way to keep myself occupied, but still be able to get the experience. I was doing stuff from, scanning tickets, setting up the floor before the games, like the bench seats for all the players. I was maybe moving like Gatorade coolers or something like that. But I still wanted to do that, because I knew, as long as because it's not so much about also getting the experience, even though the experience is very important. It's also about trying to get seen as well, because I feel like if you're getting seen by people, and like you come to work every day with a smile on your face, with a hard driven mentality, like you're giving 110%, and still just having a strong work ethic, people are going to see that, and people are gonna notice, and when they do notice, they'll be like, hey, I could do something for that person because they're coming here on time every day, like high energy, ready to work, and they're just trying to do everything they can to make us look good. Like when I say us, I mean like the supervisors, the organization. And I think that's what we learned a lot, or what a lot of people may need to realize at some point, that you're not only trying to make yourself look good, you're also trying to make the people that you represent look good. Like we talk about the aspect of team, like there's no I in team. So you have to have like a we mentality when you're with an organization. And I'm sure, that is something that is emphasized with the race teams you're at. With Ava, you being at Hendrick, Victor being at RFK, and Sidney being at Penske. I'm sure, even though there's like there's one driver per car, there's still this team like atmosphere that I'm sure is being emphasized at the race shop, or where you guys are. So it was great to hear that aspect of just understanding how you can separate yourselves, like when you're in the application pool. That actually answered the follow up question that I had. So good job, guys. Like for like decreasing the question count there. I want to go a little bit more into just knowing about the people that are coming behind us. And yeah, I know with us being Gen Z, we're still relatively young, and we're still, very green to be in the sports industry. But we also got to think about how they can mentor the generation that's coming behind us, because, with how drastically the world is changing, they're looking to us to, find inspiration, to use us as, the next mentors, like for them. So the question that I pose to everybody is, how do we encourage our generation and the next generation of sports industry professionals to garner an interest in wanting to work in the industry without, making them feel discouraged about the challenges that come with trying to apply for these positions?
I think one thing that we've already touched on is the competitiveness, especially, this program, and, any other program out there is going to be pretty competitive, especially because sports does have a large applicant pool and a lot of people that are interested in it, whether, they're athletes, they've grown up around sports, they have an interest for it. But I think one way that we can help allow the younger generation to step into our positions eventually, and just become inspired by the work that we do, the work that we're doing now, is just show them the opportunities that they could have and the possibilities that are right there in front of them. They just, they have to do the work to get them, but they also can learn from the work that our generation has done and is going to continue to do. But I think one of the big parts about being discouraged is just looking at the competition. So I think that just trying to change the perspective, rather than, looking at an opportunity like our NASCAR Diversity Internship Program and being like, wow, like only this percentage of people, get this internship, get this opportunity, right? Instead of just focusing on that part, more so just seeing, what can you do to get there? You might not get it the first time, right? You might not get it the first like 3 times, but that just kind of goes along with continuing to push and really figuring out what your work ethic is and what you're willing to do to get these opportunities. You might not get the first one that comes to your mind, but you could get there eventually, or you might end up in a position where, wow, like I never would have thought of this. I think that a lot of us in this program, at least, never really thought we'd end up in NASCAR this summer, but through our journeys, our respective journeys, and being able to figure out our path and what we want, we've ended up in a great position. And it just allows us to, take that position, take that responsibility to help lend a hand to the younger generations and the people that, are going to come next year, are going to come year after that. Yeah, I think just showing people and giving a lot of transparency into the possibilities that they could have is something that we could do to help the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely. You pretty much said what I was going to say. I think inspiration is the biggest way to encourage the younger generation and just exposure. It's like just how we maybe didn't even know until somebody else told us about the program, or however you found your way into the NASCAR program is fine. But I think that it's important to be conscious of the fact that, hey, maybe not everyone knows about these opportunities, and just being that beacon of knowledge, after you've already experienced something, go ahead and pass it on. You have people in your life, younger generations that are into sports, and you see that they might be passionate about the industry. Do what you can to pass information along. I think that's the most important way to inspire the younger generation. And then, as Sidney said earlier, is really starting early. So the earlier you kind of can inspire younger people to follow a certain path or follow their dreams or their passion or whatever, I think that it's absolutely necessary to do that. Not only, for you, to be able to get exposure for NASCAR, but for them to just be able to kind of figure out their path in life as early as possible is super important. So I definitely think inspiration and just, again, exposure is just really like the biggest way. It's just showing the world our journey. So that's why I'm glad, Phil, that you're doing this podcast. When you messaged us about it, I hadn't thought we would be doing a podcast this summer, but I was thinking about it. I was like, that's pretty cool. I don't know anybody else that's doing a podcast, and just for this exact reason, just to let people know about our journey, I think is super important. Mm-hmm. I'm sure people will listen to this, after you end up finalizing everything and apply for this internship program next year. So definitely exposure is like the number one thing for me.
Absolutely.
I'm going to take a little bit of a different angle. As I said, everything that Ava and Vic have said, very, very spot on. But I'm going to take it from a different aspect as far as how to help them. So, of course, we talk about how to help them get in the field professionally. I'm going to take it a different route. So, part of one of the best ways that we can help them, we have to be real with them. And not just just being real as far as not just professionally, but telling them how to straighten up some things in their personal lives as well. Because in our generation, we're too easily distracted. Because whether it's social media, whether it's other things, everybody's got family. I got crazy family members. I'm dealing with a whole bunch of stuff as well. So part of it is making sure these people's heads are right. Because to get an internship like this and everything else, I said, with the rejections, with the stress that comes along with it, even though it's very, very rewarding, they got to know all that. And they got to be mentally prepared for it. As I said, they have to be prepared to compete. Because and part of like getting that experience is that, when you get it, you have to put yourself in a position to compete. Yeah, it's very, very competitive. Yeah, we're talking about, it's 2% out of however else. But guess what? 2% is better than 0. And at some point in time, it's just like, if it's more than 0%, you got a shot. That's how I look at it. That's how I kind of look at it. And when you build up that experience, that's what is going to build up anybody's confidence. We're not just saying just for them to get it, just to get it. It also, from a personal level, builds up confidence, because you even realize that, hey, you know what? If I don't get told no, get told yes by this organization, that's fine, because I believe I get told yes by somebody else, because I know I'm confident. I become more confident in my resume, confident in myself as a person, to where I know that, hey, that sometimes that's just how life goes. Because, if you're not real with yourself, and that's a big part of it too, know what you can handle and what you can't handle. And because I may have listed all the programs and stuff, and that's not even all the things I may have done. I tell a lot of people, not everybody can handle a certain workload. So some people say, well, you can do, I want to try this. Can you handle the workload? Because sometimes being in sports, you got to know how to sometimes wear multiple different hats at multiple different times. Because your role may be, as I said, my role may be marketing intern, but I'm doing at least 5 or 6 different things. So that's a big part of it as well. They want versatility. So it's not just that you have to be so dead set on one thing. If you have versatility, you make yourself more valuable. And that's just with anything and everything. Like whether you're on the court and everything else. Yeah, you want somebody that can shoot the ball very, very well. But if they can shoot and defend, they're a more valuable player to me. unless there's someone like Steph Curry that's just one that's in a lifetime. But the average NBA player, for example, if you can shoot real well and you can defend real well, you make yourself a double threat because okay, he can shoot it out the parking lot, but then on top of that, when he gets back there on defense, he's going to be a hard person to get past. And most teams, that's what they like. And so when you're telling this to our generation, just be real, can't be lazy. It's too much laziness. You cannot be and try to work in sports and try to be competitive if you are lazy. And there's a lot of laziness. There is. I mean, that's just being the ultimate truth. And so what you tell about the people coming behind us, even when even to the ones that get into NDIP class of 2024, do not be lazy. I mean, as I said, that you can't be. I mean, that's how I say it before. You have to make sure that help. Our job is to help build those mindsets by being mentors and everything else. Because if you're gonna be in the business, you have to hear it the real way. Because how do you think we heard it? We heard it the real harsh way. That okay, yeah, this is a good field. Like as soon as you say you want to get in sports, they'll be like, oh, you want to get in this field, huh? That's what I was. Oh, you want to work in radio? Oh, you want to? Oh, let's see how much you want it. That's kind of approach that my mentors get. Oh, let's see how hard you want it. And then, at first it may feel good. And then when you start getting some late nights, they're going to say, okay, are you willing to stay up late at night, sometimes till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning when you don't want to, but you realize that it's harder than what it looks. And when you see your mentors and your professors, what they have done, you see it in action, you realize, no, this is not glamorous. Sometimes that's the big part of it too. It's not all glamorous either. I mean, that's a big part of it as well. So I think I kind of take it from a different route. It's just like you got to be real with them about it. They need to be real about themselves. Outside drama, whether it's with family and friends, you got to learn how to shut that out. I know that I've had to do that personally. You can love your family. I know you can't pick your family, but when you start trying to do something like being in sports and everything else, the first thing a lot of them will say, well, working in sports is hard and everybody's trying to get in it. Oh, yes, it is. But you have to know how to shut out negativity. And then when you start doing well, sometimes they get even more negative because now they're jealous. So you got to learn how to block out jealousy because when you start becoming successful, I don't know if the three of you have dealt with this, but as I said, I'm sure Phil definitely has. I mean, think about it. If I have, I know Phil definitely has because when you're interning, when you start getting into these big roles and everything else, if it's not jealousy, you have a lot of people that want to try to take from you. They don't want to put in the work that you do. Yeah. They want to kind of, it's not like asking for advice. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people that will blatantly come in and try to ask for all your connections that you had. I mean, think about it, you had to bust your behind to get it. And so my mentality is, oh no, you got to bust your behind to get it too. Or I'm willing to help you, but I'm not. You can't hand it. That's a part of it too that a lot of people don't realize. Some people, they want handouts. That's not how sports is. You have to go out there and get it. Especially with us being a diversity internship program, us as Black men, like me, you, and Vic, Phil. Ain't nothing handed to us. Nothing is handed to us. We have to go out there and get it. I mean, and that's just how it is. You have to put yourself in a position to compete because even when that person can say no, my mindset is, well, if they're saying no, then that means I'm gonna make myself a hard person for them to say no to. Not like an easy no where they don't even look at you. I'll say, if you look at it and I'm in a competition, I'll be like, hey, I realize I can't win them all, but I'm going to make you at least think. Think before, you got to make yourself a competitive person. You have to make yourself, a hard person for an employer to say no to. Because a hard no and sooner or later it's going to be easy yes, like Ava said. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like the competitive spirit that you mentioned is very valuable for sure. And, like what the OFP, mentality is about having that same competitive spirit to that of an athlete that's trying to, achieve success on the field, court, the ice. But in our case, since we're NASCAR interns, the track. I mean, yeah, it's like the athletes that are doing that on the field. There are people that are in the sports industry that are trying to do the same off, where they're trying to achieve success to help their organization, reach the goals and become more prestigious than where they are now, like just for what they can do within their own departments, but also, being versatile as well. And I believe versatility is a big attribute that someone that's working in the sports industry can have, because it shows that, you're not the type of person that believes that no job is too little or too small. I mean, like I remember, there were some days where like I would be like passing out hats like at the game, when I know like, well, that's not exactly what I was assigned to do, but I'm still going to do it because it's all about trying to be a team player. And when you're a team player, like it makes the whole, like the rest of the team look good, and it makes you, be a leader. Like whether you're the quiet leader, the rah leader, it still makes everybody win, because everybody's trying to get the win at some point. If they have somebody that's demonstrating that, then a lot can be done. But I also believe that the people that work in sports, or the people that are trying to work in sports, the one thing that I believe, actually no, not just one thing, but a few things that I believe that they should learn, and learn fast, is humility, and also being a people person. Because like when you're working in sports, you're going to be talking to a lot of people. I mean, a lot. And if you don't develop the social skills now, it's going to be hard for you, like, once you get into it. Because I think this is something that comes with time as well. Like the more time you have when you're trying to network with people, and when you're at conferences, or at events or orientations, you're going to be doing a lot of talking, and you have to be able to convey a story when you're doing that. And I know the one piece of advice that I got, like I was when I was broadcasting basketball for St. John's, I remember, I broadcasted a game at Madison Square Garden. We were playing UConn, and I remember when I was walking inside the arena to get my credentials, I was with my partner Thomas that day, and that's when I met my broadcast idol, Gus Johnson. And everybody knows Gus Johnson. He's done college football, he's done like the NFL, college basketball for March Madness. He does Big East basketball for Fox Sports, and and just being able to meet him, and like I remember the one piece of advice that he gave me was to be a good storyteller. And I really took that to heart, because not only be a good storyteller when you're like conveying a broadcast, but also just be a good storyteller when you're socializing with people. I feel like if you do a great job at telling your story, which is bound to happen when you go through the interview process for a sports organization, then people are going to catch on to that real fast. So that's definitely a strong thing that I believe is important to help mentor the next generation. That they need to be good storytellers, they need to be good people, like a good people or a people person, and they also just need to learn how to humble themselves, and just knowing that not everything is given, and that everything is earned, and like in a genuine way. You just have to do the right thing, and good things are going to happen to you. So I want to get into this segment where I want to touch a little bit on just the experiences that you've had with NASCAR so far. So yeah, knowing that everybody's on their separate teams, yeah, this is where everybody can start throwing tomatoes at each other. Like I don't mean that literally, since everybody's in different places, but I just want to touch a little bit on what is it like to be interning with a NASCAR Cup Series team in your own regard.
I think the coolest part, I think, for everyone that is at a team right now is, it's really cool to kind of have an behind the scenes look at, however many drivers that you have. Like, they're all separate teams, but you're under the same umbrella. And I think definitely the coolest part is having a hand in seeing a lot of the things that go on for specific teams that someone else may not see on a daily basis, and you get to really personally understand each driver, and what how they approach races, a bit like on their personal life. And it's really cool because you get to develop a lot of connections that are very personal with people, because you have four drivers, or at least Hendrick has four drivers, right? And so you get to see a lot of someone's life. You get to see a lot of, aside from, their athletic abilities, you get to see their teams and the people that work on their teams every single day. And so I think, firstly, like, just for all of us being at a partner is something that's really cool. But at least for Hendrick, I really enjoyed, having our 4 drivers and kind of getting to collaborate with a lot of my coworkers and collaborating with each person that works on those teams, whether they're in the shop every day working on the car or they're up in marketing where I am. It's just really cool to see what everybody does. And I think it gives kind of like an appreciation for each person that's on a team because, without one person, it kind of all falls apart. Each person has a job and has a very significant contribution to the team that without them, there's a big missing piece to, what goes into every race weekend, right? And so I think it's what a lot of people don't see. So having that aspect and having that side of things and just that kind of perspective is really cool. But at least for me, just, whether it's kind of shadowing one of the PR reps or creating some content for our social media page to make us look the best that we are. It's really cool to have a hand in a lot of the details in different aspects that, I wouldn't know just watching on TV, watching a race. But from a Hendrick standpoint, it's just really cool to be a part of the small things that occur each day, but then also be a part of, the big things and things that, everybody else sees.
Yeah, absolutely. For me working at RFK so far, it's really been eye-opening to just the company culture that you'll find at these NASCAR teams. It's pretty intense and in a good way. They really take the family aspect to heart. And the thing I do like about NASCAR is the fact that the presidents and even the drivers themselves are just so accessible. My first tour of the Cup Series shop, I was walking through with some of the guys that I work with in the department. We're just walking through, we're looking at the cars and stuff. And then Brad Keselowski comes, he just walks in, he's just like eating a sandwich or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that was my first time meeting him in person, just casually, like in the garage. And it was pretty cool, man. Like he was such a cool guy. Just first meeting me, I got introduced to him as an intern. He kind of joked around with me. And then I think the very next week, I was able to attend a production shoot for King's Hawaiian, one of the main sponsors for RFK. And just seeing that behind the scenes is something that I think is just a really big plus and positive to working for NASCAR, because you might not get that at other industry, other industries working like for a team, and it's just very tight knit, still very competitive. But again, everybody's accessible. So if you have questions, if you want to know more about the company, even things like RFK having a gym and me being able to work out with the president of RFK, from 12 to 1. I mean, it's just great opportunities all around for you to be able to connect with people and learn something new pretty much everywhere you go there. Chris Buescher, he works out in the gym all the time. So it's just crazy to see just all the big personalities and just how everybody works together in such a competitive environment. And they really do treat it like family. And since I've been there, I mean, even Sidney and Ava were talking earlier about just connections and LinkedIn. And I mean, I've met so many people just from a couple people the first day I was there. And then it's just a waterfall effect, just meeting so many other people just through even knowing and connecting and following people on LinkedIn. So definitely familiar vibes with the RFK, and I'm sure Hendrick and Penske as well. Very tight knit groups that are working towards a common goal.
Yeah. So very very good points. Of course, starting out with Penske, my first day was absolutely wonderful. Because first I started on that Tuesday after Memorial Day. Of course, we won the Indy 500 with Joseph Newgarden. I actually met Joseph Newgarden last week. And so we saw them win that while we were at the Speedway. And, it got rained out on that Sunday or whatever. And then, of course, Monday they rescheduled it. And then Ryan Blaney for Team Penske wins. So it was a sweep. And that was, I think, the first time they had ever done that in their history. sweeping the 500, which is the major race in the IndyCar, and then 600, which is actually the longest race through all the NASCAR races. So, being able to do that, my first day was wonderful. Everybody was on cloud nine. You got to, you get to celebrate, and, they do it big, whenever you celebrate and everything else. And, and just, definitely have that family type of atmosphere and being, when I may finish my work very, very early with the marketing department. So, I'm with, or whatever else that I'm doing. And so when I'm not doing that, I'm going to everybody. I'm going into everybody's offices, as long as, they answer any questions I might have, very, very inviting and everything else. And, if I'm not, and if it's not in my department, obviously the receptionist lays the hell, the person that runs payroll. I talk there all the time. I think it's good to have a relation with somebody that run the payroll because, they're the ones, don't take them off because they're the ones that are writing the check at the end of the day. So, I think that's just one thing about it, just all the great people you meet. Definitely got a buddy on the pit crew now that actually went to North Carolina A&T. Got someone that with the Bethune-Cookman. I would have never guessed that they'd be here. That they're part of the Drive for Diversity program that they were telling us about in orientation. And so, even being around the guys at the pit crew, their job is very, very important because, they can really make or break. And, seeing them practice and everything else, seeing them practice in live time, timing themselves, they got screens back there, whatever else, they're analyzing their performances. I love seeing that. You love seeing it from even the driver's side. As far as our drivers and everything, you see them pretty often and everything else. And they walk through and they say, how do you, they're very, 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 very accessible, very, very nice when you speak to them and everything. Got introduced to, I said Newgarden the other day, Blaney. I've met him plenty of times. I've met Logano. So just meeting all these guys and, kind of learning more and more about them, what they like, what they dislike. It's very, very, very good to see on the that behind the scenes basis because, at Penske, we have what's called a fan walk. I don't know if RFK or Hendrick, well, we went through Hendrick, so I don't really know, but, there's, obviously fans walk through there every day. You have a section where fans can walk through and see, things, but, they can't see what we see. So, at Penske, one funny thing that we deal with some, super fans. We deal with some stalkers. Like people, I've had to determine, and the sad part is we have this one girl, her name is actually Sidney. And that, it takes me off because, they come every Monday, her and her father, or whatever. And they up on this fan walk with all the fans. They had to limit the time because they were coming up there all the time trying to interact with drivers and stuff down there and all that. Some of the stuff that you see, some people are really, really dead into it. And, they just tell me not to look at them. But, you up there and you might hear them try to holler at people. I'm like, don't get me wrong. And fans are very passionate, but, you see a lot of the crazy stuff too. They sending in letters. They sending in a whole bunch of stuff. I'm talking to, the main assistants and everything, people, the phone calls that they get every day, hearing some of the phone calls they get. I would have never guessed that. Wow, people are really dead into it. People sending crazy letters trying to, get money out of them and stuff like that. I would have never realized all that stuff until you get deep into it. And you realize wow, this is, you see just how, you see all the super fans, you kind of know, okay, who to look out for. You see that the type of crazy aspects of it, the good days, the bad days, the slow days, traveling and everything else. Our managers and stuff like that, they're traveling constantly. To do that every week, going to California one week, going to Tennessee another week, going to Ohio another week. And you just kind of see all the preparation that they have to put in. When we're in, you have to plan that stuff way out in advance. And it can be very, very tiring. So it's just even watching the behind the scenes of that, seeing their perseverance and how they get through long days. They make it look easy, but you already know, hey, it's hard. It's hard doing that as well. So, I doubt that, that RFK or Hendrick really getting any stalkers, because, they haven't been winning as of late, but, but in reality, and, I'm just kind of kidding, somewhat. I'm not saying that y'all don't have them. You see, I'm not saying that y'all don't have them, but as of recently and everything, we just, you got people up there. I mean, it's like, it's amazing. It's hard to not try to look up there at them, but they're looking down at you, and they will sit there and they're watching the cars get unloaded. It's like they know what days to come. They all up there, and they're excited, but it's just like you try to walk and they just staring at you. If they see, I mean, literally somebody today gave me their autograph. I took it, right. I mean, it was a fan. I guess trying to be a racing. I encourage him, but he actually, the first time I'm thinking he's asking for my autograph. So he gives me, so he pulls out a Sharpie and he pulls it out. This kid pulls it out himself and signs his name. And so, I'll be driving here one day. And that's a good aspiration to have. And, the parents over here, I guess one thing I was also funny is that they were surprised about the way they spoke. Oh, you speak very, very well. I said, yeah, thank you. I mean, so you see it, you hear and see a lot of things too that you would have never guessed of. So that's very fun about it. But overall, love my team. Very, very good. And of course, we always have major respect to RFK, to Hendrick, and everything else. They're brand names just like us. They're very, very successful. They've been around for a long, long time as well. So, I know we joke about it, but it's always major, major props. I mean, a lot of them know each other. People that so it's just it is a business, and where you respect those brands, that they're going to bring their A game, and everything. So that encourages us to stay on our A game as well. So if anything, it's a great motivator, and yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like what's great about having all three of you on the panel tonight is just that you're working with your respective teams, but not only are you working with a race team, you're actually working with like the top is like I always considered Hendrick, like growing up, like Jeff Gordon, he was my favorite driver because he grew up 45 minutes away from me in Vallejo, California. And knowing that he drove for Hendrick, and Hendrick was winning all the championships with Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, and now like recently with Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson. Like I always saw them as like like the Yankees of NASCAR. They're like the championship caliber team. Like that's like the team that everybody wants to go to. It's it's like when you see the Yankees with the pinstripe uniforms. That's iconic. Like when you see Hendrick with the number 24 or the number 5. Or or the number 48, those are iconic numbers. People know, who those drivers are. They know like how famous those numbers are. And, if Hendrick having now Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, and excuse me, William Byron. No, I zoned out there. They're starting to create like a new crop of talent that's coming up, young talent that are going to be future Hall of Famers. RFK with Brad Keselowski, who's now driver owner, or with Chris Buescher. I mean, RFK, they've been around the sport for a while now. Just starting out with Jack Roush, then expanding over with the Fenway Sports Group. And everybody that knows the Fenway Sports Management Group, they own the Boston Red Sox. Their name comes from Fenway Park. Like they own like a Liverpool, the soccer team. And I mean, just knowing what their branding is like in NASCAR, it's a big deal. And they also own the New England Sports Network as well. And then lastly with Team Penske, Roger Penske, like big name not just in racing but in the corporate world. Roger Penske made his millions off of the trucking company that he owns, like the big yellow truck that you see on the highways, like with Penske on the side. That's Team Penske right there.
It's powerful, man. Like when I see it on the, I have a whole different meaning. I'm just like, wow. Like when you see those trucks, like when I see them now, I'm like, I work for that man now. I would have never guessed, Like, the heck with U-Haul now. The heck with U-Haul,
I mean, yeah, like it's just like the branding aspect of it all, and like with Hendrick Motorsports, Rick Hendrick made his millions off of owning car dealerships, and RFK, Jack Roush, he's an engineer, and Fenway Sports Group, like they're just like a sports branding entity, like just just how you have these stories about how these teams started and how they were able to become not just like in my opinion, not just NASCAR teams, but racing empires, it's a huge deal to, you know, even like be a part of that experience for you guys. And then, I know, you guys are probably getting a kick out of just, hearing the backstories of how it all started and, where are they now? Like, where are they trying to go in the future? And just reminding yourselves that for where you like for, being fortunate enough to be placed in these, like with these respective, teams in the program, you're contributing to their success and their success in the future. Like, like you'll probably like, like if even if you don't end up with staying with the race team, like you'll probably be coming back someday being like, oh yeah, I interned here for the summer, and this is what I did, and what I did is still now being carrying on, just continuing the legacy. And that's a huge thing to commend yourself for, to be able to be a part of that. But I mean, it's been a great episode, guys, and I just want to close out with this last question for everybody, and just knowing, what we're doing here as interns in NASCAR, and that this is like a program that's specifically based for diversity, equity, inclusion to help bring more, people of color into the sport and bring more awareness to even just trying to help grow the fan side of the sport. We're trying to bring more people of color to the races, to, be involved in trying to start their own team, or, bring in, like a sponsor that's, diversity focused. Like with us being in a diversity internship program, how do we encourage people of color to become more aware about the opportunities to intern with a sport like NASCAR? And I also want to add on to that question as well with, what do we do as, like I guess you say current OFPs, and trying to encourage and like the next generation of applicants for the program to just keep pushing and just to, be aware about what NASCAR is trying to go in the future?
I think it's definitely all about exposure, but it starts with the people that are closest to the sport and people, so, the people that work for the sport, which includes us. And so I think that the best thing that we can do is really just spread the word and help people become exposed to NASCAR, to the racing industry. Because I know a lot of us in this internship program, including me, we didn't know what NASCAR really was. We didn't understand the sport. We had never really heard of it, or, we just didn't grow up with it. So we all come from very different backgrounds. We all have had very different experiences, and a lot of that has been not in the racing industry. So I think that as interns and as people who can say, we have been in this program, I think that the best thing that we can do, and especially because we are in this unique market, we're in a unique position to open doors for other people of color to step into our shoes and, make things even better and continue to expand the industry and the sport. So I think that, in our daily conversations, the people that we meet, the people that we've already met, and, the people that we'll connect with in the future, if we are able to, share our authentic, but, I'd say for the most part, positive experiences that we've had so far, I think that's the best way that, we can share those opportunities with other people, and especially, people of color. So, yeah.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I have another family member that says stuff along the lines of, you need to appreciate where you come from to get to where you're going. So I think it's really good to know your heritage, and and know where you come from, and be proud of that. Be confident in your skin, and if you are confident in your skin, I feel like you will thrive anywhere. You don't have to conform to anything that's going on. Obviously NASCAR is expanding their audience and their demographic, and I love it. But obviously there's been controversy in the past, and I say, in order to work in an industry like this, you need to have tough skin. I don't care who you are, and just sports industry in general, and again, knowing where you come from and being confident in yourself, and just being able to know your worth, I think, is super important in people breaking into industries where they may not have populated, as much in the past. And I think that's very important. I love what NASCAR is doing with NDIP. I even noticed that, with the class that we have right now, I love to see my people and people that are similar to me, confident, intelligent, athletic, smart, just everything, all the whole package. And it's really nice to see that, and to be able to inspire like younger people in the same fashion is just super important. So for the younger generations that are coming up, I definitely would practice all of the things that all of us talked about in this podcast. But again, just practice your social skills, practice being confident within yourself. That is contagious energy. People gravitate towards that. People will, will want to work with you if they can sense that you are just confident within yourself. So I think that's like the number one advice, aside from exposure, like Ava said, just getting information to people's eyes, and their ears, word of mouth about what NASCAR is doing here. Of course, that's super important. But then to take it a step further, like for those kids that are interested or students that are interested, again, it all starts with you. So just continue to work on yourself. If you want to work with NASCAR and you have all the other boxes checked, and you're confident in yourself, you should have no problem, thriving in this industry, to be honest with you.
Yeah, man. Of course, the reality of it, of course, being in a program like this, of course, is trying to expand the sport as far as you said, in their audience. And for what we can encourage other people that will be in this program, or just people in sports of, whether they're Black, whether they're Hispanic, Latin American, whatever it is. The reality is it's about, as you said before, knowing where you come from. And, as I said, and when you know where you come from, you realize the trailblazers that came in our community, particularly in the Black community. When you think about integrating a sport and everything it is very challenging. But that's a big part of it. We are here because, like I was telling the group a while ago, a few of them, because, obviously, everybody knows when that press release came out with us. And I think with past press release, there were some rather insensitive and racist comments and everything else. But you got to, all I tell people is, just, you're really, that's going to happen. And you just got to realize that, hey, it's coming from a lot of people, and no disrespect to nobody, but obviously it's coming from people that, they wish they were in our shoes, and they just don't want to admit it. So the only way is, as I said earlier, there are going to be people that will try to bring us down. And that's just has nothing to do with NASCAR. It's even in life. Obviously I'm sure we've all dealt with it at some point in time. As I said, there's a lot of nepotism and everything else. However, we are here. So if anything, I think that's what makes us strong, is because we're able to overcome this type of stuff. Because even whether it's integrating this sport or continuing to build up other things, or even create our own stuff as well. Because think about it, we're also, especially particularly in the Black community, that we are creators. We come from a long line, a bloodline of creators, inventors, very innovative stuff. The red lights, and a lot of things that were invented by Black people, and from other races of people as well. So you gotta, as you said, knowing where you come from is we are here. We are integrating because we have the knowledge to do so. We are special. We are special in a great way. As I said. So definitely I think that's what will encourage a lot of people. You realize, we all serve a purpose. And and to know how to block out a lot of that noise, because I said especially when we can bind together, can really continue to bind together, they can't stop us. We're too unstoppable. think about it, we have a whole lot of brilliant minds, all 37 of us. Well, maybe 36, I don't know about Phil, but besides Phil, the other
say, man.
I don't know, as I said, I don't know about Phil's mindset, but, I know at least for 36 out of the 37 of us, I would say that the 36 of us are very, very brilliant. I said, Phil's getting there, Phil's on his own, Phil is, So
Sidney with the
I can't
jokes.
even take myself seriously. I can't even take myself seriously, man. But you know, but even like when you just, as you said before, doing a podcast like this, I mean, it'll be impactful. You know, as I say, you know, because it's coming from, you know, we're still in our 20s and everything else. So we're getting into this field and getting into it. And yes, we earned our right to get here from our hard work. And so and just like with anything else. And so don't let nobody, especially, you know, being from the outside, discredit your work. Because think about it, a lot of times we had to work. The reality is a lot of us, we had to work 10 times harder. And it's crazy. It may seem unfair, but we had to work. We had to, as I said, we had to grind our butts off, and that's what everybody else has to do, particularly from minority backgrounds, from people of color. It's just, I mean, that's just kind of the way it is. But when you get into that, we can help encourage others because we're only. I mean, think about it, when you continue to uplift and build each other as well as the people behind us, that's only going to make us more stronger in the long run as well, because, you know, we have to continue to keep it going. That's how I kind of encourage it, you know. So that's what you have to tell people. I'm just like, you know, it's knowing that you are here because you have a purpose here. And, you know, and it may not just be with this sport, it can be with any sport. So you know, just telling that the people that come behind us, man, as I said, that's why we're trying to tell you to have that type of confidence to go out there and everything else and get a lot of that experience, because nobody else can do it for you. No, I mean, nobody else will do it for you. I mean, as I said, you know, anything that's attached to your name, it has to be something that you've done from your hard work and everything else. So, you know, that's what I say about it, man. But just being proud of who you are as a person, regardless of what skin that you're in. You know, God put you on this. I mean, I'm a Christian, so I just say God put us all on this earth. We're all equal in His eyes. So there's nobody that is superior in His eyes. We're all human. So, you know, as I said, so when you really think of it that way and everything else, and you just use it to bond with each other and everything else, because we all have gone through racism and certain experiences. When you can use our hurt and our experiences to help uplift each other, then we're unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean that's well said, Sidney, and you know, definitely a strong way to close that. And like everybody, I mean, you know, I guess my closing statement would be is that, you know, NDIP is a program for all like the walks of life that we're trying to get into the sports industry, because we know that the numbers may still be slim, but at least we're still making an effort to, you know, promote the program for what it is and what they're going to continue to do. Like this, the NDIP has been around for over 20 years now. This is the 22nd year that NASCAR has done something like this. So, you know, the fact that, you know, we're like they're making the efforts to, you know, bring people that look like us into the sport, you know, that's the first step of getting to it. And it's just all about trying to make sure we make the sport look good, so that NASCAR is, you know, doing the right thing. We're trying to keep the program strong and going. And hopefully this is what this series can do for the program going forward. Just the extra promotion that, you know, that the off-field players is able to give to NASCAR, to be able to encourage, you know, people of color to be a part of the program in the future. But that's gonna wrap it up. I mean, you've heard it from the best: Ava Hartsell from Hendrick Motorsports, Victor Jackson from RFK Racing, and Sidney Brown from Team Penske, all being the first group to appear on the NDIP series for the Off-Field Players podcast, and definitely doing big things, you know, not just within their respective department, the NASCAR Diversity Internship Program, but also in their careers as they continue to build their prestige into becoming the off-field players of the future. And hopefully what they said has encouraged, you know, the OFPs listening in to continue to strive, continue to, you know, be aware about certain programs, and also just to, you know, use what was said tonight as motivation to continue to go after your dream of trying to become the future OFP that you want to set out to be. That's going to wrap it up from me, like for the Off-Field Players podcast for the NDIP series in episode number 1. Make sure to be on the lookout for episode number 2 of my second group that I will be bringing in, like in the upcoming days. So, you know, make sure to keep up with the series, and one way for you to do that is if you're watching this on the YouTube version, the video version, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Off Field Players Podcast YouTube channel. If you're listening to the audio version, on either Spotify or iHeartRadio, make sure to like and share this podcast with anybody that's looking to get into the sports industry, or just, just interested to hear the stories about the interns that are in the NASCAR Diversity Internship Program, just hearing, what their lives have been like coming up and what they're currently doing as members of the class of 2023 NDIP program. So, yeah, that's going to wrap it up. And yeah, I see Sidney rocking the Team Penske hat and, wrapping the colors, man. I love the loyalty and I love the passion that you have. And, of course, thank you again to Ava, Victor, and Sidney. I'll make sure to leave their information down below in the description if you want to connect with them on LinkedIn, if you want to ask them any extra questions, or, just want to, connect with them. I will make sure to leave their information down below so you can go find them. But that's going to wrap it up for the Off Field Players Podcast. I want to wish everybody a safe evening, a safe week. And as always, make sure to achieve what you believe.